Undo 4 bolts, take the body off, no worries. Just went straight in my mouth. Welcome back to FJ40 Part 2. I know it's been a little while since the last episode, so I think it's been over a year since we actually went and picked up the car. You'll note that we're not in the same shed that we were before. Having the shed so far away and having the car so far away was making it pretty difficult to work on it. So we've moved it closer to home. You can see in the background there's been a little bit of progress since we last showed you guys the car. So I've tried to capture as much footage as I can of the work that I've done over the last 12 months. There's a reason I'm on this side of the camera because my filming is shoddy at best. But today we're going to be trying to take the body off and hopefully get the car just back to its chassis. So we'll try and take you guys along for as much as we can. Obviously most of the stuff we've done so far is stripping the car down. They're pretty easy to strip down. The biggest issue I've been having is that most of the joints are so rusted and covered in 30-year-old dirt and mud that I can't actually find where the bolts are. So we start at the front, the bull bar's gone. You can see the fenders are gone and there's some quarter panels. They came apart in 2 pieces. The bonnet was actually a bit of a nightmare to get off. They're really old flathead bolts that I ended up having to use the grinder on those. The most difficult part was probably taking these back quarter panels off. They've got these guide pins that help them sit in the channel around the side of the car, and one of them still has it attached, but the other one was actually rusted right off and has become one with the floor pan. So that took quite a bit of work. You'll see in some of my time-lapse footage there's some sparks flying around, so that was me with the angle grinder just trying to make the process a little bit easier. The roof's fiberglass, so they're pretty easy to take off. So that's sitting up at the back there. We'll probably be able to keep the roof because it's in reasonably good condition. These cars are renowned for rusting in lots of generic places, but one of those is the guttering that goes around the fiberglass roof. So I'll get a new one of those gutters. They're steel or some kind of metal, but the roof itself is actually in pretty good nick. So that's good because they can be hard to come by. For these short wheelbase ones, the utes are less difficult. I have been quite meticulous with taking this apart, which is somewhat unlike me. I sort of nicked this idea from Jocko working on his Hiluxes. He uses snap lock bags. I've gone and got one of these drawer things from a well-known local hardware store, and I've just labelled all the bolts that I've taken out in their various drawers, so that when we go to put it back together, whilst not all of these bolts are going to be usable because they're corroded and rusted and some of them did snap, I know the type, the length, the size that we're going to need, and it all is somewhat in order of how it came out. I've started at the top and worked my way down. So not everything's labelled, but I have tried to do my best. I've done the same with the loom as we took it apart. Obviously the loom's not that complicated. There's not that many electrics on the car, but I've just put electrical tape and labelled the stuff so that when we go to put what's left of the dashboard back together, we can just plug and play and it should be fairly straightforward. Should being the operative word. I didn't label this part, but I'll file it under W for what the hell is that doing there. Grandpa's also labelled some parts. He was very meticulous with labelling. So we've got instructions for how to charge the battery. I didn't know there was this many steps in charging a car battery, but lucky he told us when it was from. Otherwise, how could we possibly charge it again? Thanks, Grandpa. Shout out to Grandpa's birthday tomorrow. He's turning 103 tomorrow, so I'm going to go and have lunch with him and hopefully show him some videos of the Toyota. There's been quite a bit of ongoing discussion this morning about how overwhelmed we feel. The more I look at it, the more we look at it, the more daunting it seems as a project. Just went straight in my mouth. Never mind your eyes, people say wear safety glasses when you're under a rusty car, but they don't say wear a respirator, which you should, because I just breathed in like a whole bunch of Japanese rust from 1977. Weight saving. I haven't stripped or anything. All right, for some reason, driver's side much easier than passenger side. There's a lot more body mounts than we thought there were, and also we're a bit hampered by, someone's put a gas tank on this before Grandpa bought it, and the tow bar has also been fitted as an aftermarket accessory, and it's very clearly not a Toyota one out of the factory. So there's some very, very difficult to access bolts that are holding the back on just along this channel here. So we've got to take the tow bar off to get to the gas tank to then get to some bolts that are tucked up and up and up and round under here. So it is, it's testing us a little bit more than we thought it would, but we'll get there. Oh, that's so much faster. Tell me you had the camera on for that. Okay, good. We couldn't have done that with two people. So we're back to chassis. It's so exciting. I got so excited when it came off. So now, like the next forward step from here is we're going to start working from one end, stripping everything off the chassis, all the cabling, the hard lines, because the next big phase is that the chassis is going to get sent away and sandblasted and primed with the axles as well. So we'll take the diffs out of the diff housing and send the axles away. And while that's getting done, I can be working on the engine, getting that restored. By the time the chassis comes back and the axles come back, I'll have ordered new suspension so I can put that together and still have a rolling chassis just with the primer on there. And then brakes, etc. at the front. Really, I'm going to have to strip those calipers all the way down. I can be working on that while the chassis is getting painted and hopefully put it all back together. So by the end of today, we should have everything cleaned off the chassis. Sorry, not cleaned. Wiring removed from the chassis. That's definitely not going to be clean. And the engine just about ready to take out. How's the amount of dirt and shit that builds up in here? I mean, that's just like, that's not even from, you know, four-wheel driving or touring or anything like that. That's just like general use dirt of 50 years. The chassis is not in bad nick. Like, it's entirely possible the two of us don't actually know what we're looking at. But like there's surface rust here. But when you take it down, there's nothing structural, nothing's eaten through. I can't see any holes in it from rust or any, even like other than the surface rust, anything that's flaking that would indicate structural rust damage. So I'm pretty happy with the state of the chassis. So satisfying. We wanted to also take a little bit of time now that we've done and taken this all apart to run through for anyone else who might be having a go at this, what we found to be useful and what we found to be a bit more difficult. We should caveat by saying we're not mechanics at all. We're just guys with some tool skills who like working on cars. So take all of this with a pinch of salt, but some of the things that we've noticed, we've learned, we found easy, we found difficult when taking the body off an FJ40 were the chassis mounts. So I couldn't find anything on the internet that talked about how many there were, or if there was something to find, it was certainly not an easy resource. On this particular car, there are 4 on each side of the chassis and 4 running along the rear bar there. There's also, it's not there now, you can't see it, but there was a 5th one on each side that comes off these longer looking mounts here that supports the step trays. It's easier to undo them from the step tray, we found, than it was to go along and undo the 10 odd bolts that hold that side step tray on. It was just one bolt that came off the step tray, and you lift the whole thing off the mount while it's attached to the body, and then you can take that step tray mount off these little body mounts once it's removed. If we left it on there, we still would have had to take that off anyway, and we would have had to undo a lot of seized and very dirty bolts on those step trays. The hard lines, I know on some vehicles, when you remove a body, you need to undo all the hard lines before you take it off. Revelation for us today, but on 40 series they don't. They're screwed to the side of the chassis. We didn't need to remove any hard lines to get the body off. We did have to undo a few mounts where the hard line for the clutch and brake system came up to the master cylinder. We didn't have to remove anything from the chassis to get that body off, which is really, really good. The steering rack, we thought it was just a sort of simple bolt mechanism. It actually turned out to be a swivel hub like that, and it had a spring inside this main steering shaft. And so a couple of threads of this and the spring that clamps onto that ball pulls back out and opens up a gap enough for you to just remove it from that ball joint. But yeah, it took us a little while to figure that one out, but once you realise how it goes together, that was much, much more straightforward to come off than we thought it was going to be. We're really happy with all the progress that we've made. Both the drive shafts are disconnected, all the shocks are disconnected, all the hard lines are off. We've done some very satisfying chassis cleaning, which was probably more enjoyable than it should have been. The next stage will be engine out, and plonk that in a sort of semi-permanent position so that I can start tinkering with it. Axles off, and away they go. So we're really, really stoked with how much progress we've made today. We didn't think we'd get this far. I feel a little bit less daunted now that I look at it like this. I'm sure all that angst will come back when I try to put it all back together, but that's far enough away that we don't have to think about it for now. So thank you all for watching. Catch you in the next one when we take the engine out.